Donald Trump's big ugly bill just faced its biggest setback yet, and he is scrambling, panicking, and melting down on Truth Social because of it. We are going to get into it all, and an exclusive interview I did with Congressman Greg Landsman today because I was running around all across Congress speaking to Democrats about how we are going to fight back against this bill and why Donald Trump is working so hard to push it through right now when he knows the disaster it will be. And one of the reasons for that is leading this bill to backfire and leading him to blow up on Truth Social was brought up right here by Congressman Jim McGovern.
This process, an abomination, legislative malpractice. Final text of this bill came out less than 24 hours ago. We met in committee an hour after it was posted. And now we're here considering a rule that only allows for 1 hour of debate. This bill is within the jurisdiction of 12 different committees. 1 hour is ridiculous. And every minute we're finding out new things that were snuck into the bill. A tax cut for whalers, and now we're learning about a gambling tax. Republican leadership and the White House are jamming this bill down our throats. And for what? We are not on a deadline, no looming crisis. We're here because Donald Trump wants a 4th of July party to celebrate this garbage bill. He wants fireworks and flags and cameras, not for this country, but for himself.
Donald Trump knows this is a disastrous piece of legislation that will completely blow up in his face and, of course, the faces of the Republicans in Congress he really doesn't care about. But when they lose their seats and Democrats retake the House and retake the Senate, his presidency will effectively end. And not just that, but Democrats can actually prosecute the crimes that have been committed by Donald Trump and those in his administration. So it really will be the end of his presidency. But right now, what Donald Trump is focused on most is Donald Trump. And of course, he wants to have a big celebration of his awful bill, a 4th of July signing, because he cares more about the PR than the millions of people who will lose their health care because of this legislation. And understanding how terrible it is, many Republicans even, it doesn't even matter that they're in competitive districts, just Republicans are fighting back, not fighting necessarily as much as they're in opposition to this bill. And we saw that in a shock moment where Donald Trump's bill has been blocked currently by opposition from his own party. We're going to check that out and then get into the meltdown he's having because of it.
We're watching this key vote in the House right now. We were just watching it right before the break. Brendan Buck is back. We had him pull over and come back and talk to us. He's a former advisor to Speakers Paul Ryan and John Boehner. So what people can see right now, they can't, 4 votes is a fail. So they can't have 4 no votes, correct?
So
what's happening right now?
With the total number of members that are in the House right now, it's 220 Republicans, 212 Democrats. That means that if 4 Republicans vote with Democrats and vote no, it's a tie. At 216, that fails. So right now you have 4 Republicans who are voting no. That is enough to stop this bill, assuming everybody who was there earlier votes. Now, I think this is going to pass still. Well, let me be very clear. There are times when you are the speaker and you decide you're going to go to the floor and you don't have the votes and you just go.
And this is a Mike Johnson tactic, too.
Well, we used it. Every speaker I've worked for, there have been moments where you're close. You're really close to the number of votes you need, but you're not quite there. And you decide, we're just going to do it. Because there is an incredible amount of pressure and intensity in a vote like this on the floor. And those members who are voting no are all going to be visited by their colleagues. And they all know that Mike Johnson's pretty serious at this point, because Mike Johnson has done this before, when it was funding the government earlier this year, when it was the vote just for him to get speaker again. Both those times, he went to the floor without the votes, and they flipped people on the floor and got there. I think that's the same strategy they're doing here. They are so close that they're not making the progress they need just by talking to people. So now they're ramping up the pressure and going to do it on the floor. We saw earlier that Mike Johnson is willing to keep the floor votes open for as long as it takes. Just, I guess, broke the record earlier. So I think he'll keep this vote open as long as it takes for the handful of folks who are currently voting no, or at least one of them, to flip their vote and probably use the peer pressure of their colleagues. Probably call them into the cloakroom and have the president give them a call. I don't think you're going to get Thomas Massey, but there's a handful of others who are voting no. The fact that a lot of the Freedom Caucus members have already flipped and are voting for it kind of tells you where this is heading. I think they all know.
So Donald Trump's big, ugly bill is currently being held up by members of his own party because they understand just how bad it is, and they don't want to be associated with it. So either they're going to vote against it, or they're going to lie, like Lindsey Graham did yesterday and said he has no idea what's in it, didn't read the thing, even though it was read out in the Senate. They don't care. They're going to try to lie. And Donald Trump is going to try to lie about this bill as well, and he did in his posting meltdown right here. Trump wrote, "It looks like the House is ready to vote tonight. We had great conversations all day, and the Republican House majority is united, okay, for the good of our country, delivering the biggest tax cuts in history and massive growth. Let's go, Republicans, and everyone else make America great again." Trump also wrote, "The USA is on track to break every record on growth. Go, Republicans. Beat the crooked Democrats tonight. Pro-growth tax cuts never fail. Make America great again." So it's the crooked Democrats who don't want 18 million people to lose their health care, don't want hospitals, community health centers, Planned Parenthood shut down all across the country. That's crooked of us now, not wanting billionaires to get a giant tax cut, a huge handout paid for on the back of working class people who will have their lives be made more difficult, their freedom restricted. That makes us crooked. I think your view of it is certainly a little crooked and confused, but Donald Trump clearly not happy about what's happening on the House floor, especially because he's been fighting with Thomas Massey all week. I'm actually surprised how steady that we have seen some of these Republicans push back against this bill. It's just kind of embarrassing now that you look back at it, what happened in the Senate. For us to see opposition like this in the House and someone like Josh Hawley who said the bill was an abomination to vote for it. But that's what Republicans are doing. They're all talking behind the scenes about how they don't like it. Oh, thanking the Democrats who they call their moral conscience because they don't actually vote in a way that represents how they should feel. They don't. They don't really seem to care. But someone who's calling that out is someone who I spoke to today in an exclusive interview, Congressman Greg Landsman. I want to take a look. Greg, so your Republican colleagues have been just lying through their teeth about this bill. They know what's in it. Some of them are willing to say Josh Hawley really just called it an abomination, voted for it. They know how bad it is, yet they're lying to us about it. What are they telling you behind closed doors about what they really know?
What they're saying is like, oh, well, I'm trying to fight for this, or I'm fighting for this. They're making the argument to us, and I think to themselves, that they are trying to make it better somehow, but it's not better. It got worse. It got worse in the Senate. They actually ended up cutting more Medicaid. Yeah. It's now $1 trillion, up from $800 billion in Medicaid cuts. So it went from, 9 million people kicked off health care because of Medicaid cuts. It's now 12 million Americans will lose their health care because of Medicaid cuts. Another 5 million because of the ACA cuts. That's 17 million Americans who are going to lose their health care if this bill passes. And the deficit spending went up. So it went from $2.5 trillion in deficit spending, and now it's $3.3 trillion. So the House is getting it back. Yeah. More deficit spending, more healthcare cuts, all to pay for tax cuts for the super wealthy. So they're struggling to manage the politics of this. They're saying all of these things, but in the end, they're voting for this disastrous bill. And somebody said to me, will it be something that catches up with them in the next 18 months before the election? I think this is something that sticks with them for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, well, let's hope. And what they've been doing to rationalize this, and what we've heard at least out of Donald Trump in the late night bleats on Truth Social, is that growth is the solution to all of this. It's like, well, there's not going to be a deficit because we're going to grow the economy so much. The tax base is going to be so much bigger. But when people can't get to work because they're sick, kids, one of the best indicators of how kids perform in schools is if they've had breakfast or lunch. And now that's not going to be happening. We're going to have a worse off workforce. Kids are going to be hungry. People are going to be struggling to have extra cash in their pocket to start a small business. Where is the growth that they're projecting out coming from? I just don't get it.
Well, and this is what they said when they tried to do this, or they did this with the tax cuts in 2017. They said, look, put it on the national credit card. We'll add trillions of dollars to deficit. Most of the deficit spending, in the last 30, 40 years is tax cuts. It's not spending on investments
no
on
investment,
people.
no.
It's these tax cuts. They're very expensive, and they always go on the credit card. And that's one of the reasons why we're getting close to $40 trillion in debt, which is a national security nightmare. I mean, it is a huge issue. Democrats have to lead on this, by the way, and say, like, we can get to a balanced budget. In fact, the last time we had a balanced budget was in 1993 when Bill Clinton put on the House floor a budget that not only was balanced, but led to surpluses because he fixed the tax code and he reined in spending.
Yeah. So that's something that we can rebrand or take back that Democratic brand. We can balance the budget. We can run things correctly. Similarly, you've seen, at least in the Trump era, efficiency in government be something co-opted by the right to say that efficiency only comes when you break government. For us, efficiency comes when you make government work. Public goods are best done when they can get to the people that need them. So how do we come back after this monstrosity that says, at least Republicans saying we're fixing Medicaid by breaking it? Completely not true. They're making it more difficult to access. How do we come back and say this is how we oppose their attack on our healthcare system? Now here's our better view of actually how to fix it. Not just the response to them. How do we fix it after they try to break it?
Well, I think we say, look, there's waste, fraud, and abuse across federal agencies, and that's laid out in these GAO reports, these Independent Government Accountability Office reports. None of those recommendations are in this bill, so we have to lead on those recommendations. And the fact is that most Congresses ignore those reports, and that's one of the reasons why we're in this mess. Is because Congresses have ignored these waste, fraud, and abuse reports, and so they're able to sort of manipulate the moment and say, no, we're going to take away health care from 17 million Americans because of waste, fraud, and abuse. It's just taking away health care. And so I think we have to be the ones to say, no, we're gonna lead on waste, fraud, and abuse, actual waste, fraud, and abuse. And we're gonna be the ones who are obsessed with making government better, always making it easier to use. Like, we're gonna be the ones that are like using AI, and every website you go on is easy to navigate, and you find out all the things you're eligible for in an instant. And when you call, you get a somebody who's super happy and eager to help. I mean, we have to be the ones that say, no, we're gonna make it really phenomenal, and it's going to be something that you get a lot out of.
Yeah, and we're not going to bring in a guy named Big Balls to do it. We're going to actually have people equipped.
We're going to be serious about
to fix things, because it's a serious issue.
Correct. Yeah, they're just trying to break it.
Of course, that's all their plan is. You're opposing it. You're fighting back. Always appreciate that.
Thanks, you, man.
Thanks so much.
All right.